Okay, we're going to be looking at the origins and early problems of the Weimar Republic, 1918 to 1923. Thinking about the end of World War One, the four key problem areas, the Treaty of Versailles, and why the German people hated the treaty so much. Firstly, let's think about the effect of World War One on Germany. World War One was 1914 to 1918. And in November 1918, Kaiser Wilhelm, the leader of Germany, fled, abdicated the throne, and went to Holland. Germany therefore then became a republic at the end of the war and signed the armistice, which was an agreement to end World War One. Many Germans saw this ending to the war as a betrayal to the army and their people. They felt that the government had been stabbing them in the back. The politicians who agreed to this and the peace settlement soon after became known as the November Criminals. And essentially Germany was a country that had been defeated. They were now leaderless, trying to establish a new republic with growing violent extremist groups on the right and the left fighting for power. Friedrich Ebert was the leader of the Social Democratic Party in 1918. And he announced that there would be elections for a constituent assembly, a new assembly, on the 19th of January 1919. The new government decided to meet in Weimar and therefore adopted the name Weimar Republic. They had two important tasks. Firstly, to negotiate a peace with the Allies, so France, Britain, Italy and America. And secondly, to write a new constitution, which we'll have a look at what that is in a moment. The result of the elections, as you can see here, meant that no party had a majority. This meant that in 1919 a coalition government was formed, even though the Social Democratic Party there vastly the majority of seats. It was still a coalition government. The first task of the new coalition government was to create a constitution. A constitution is a set of rules for government, how things are run. German constitution was drawn up in August 1919, and there you see an elected president stands as head of the state. The president controls the army, and he would choose, appoint and dismiss a chancellor. A chancellor was somebody who ran the Reichstag, the German parliament, and the day-to-day running of the country. The Reichstag was elected from various political parties by the people of Germany and ran the day-to-day running of the country, passed laws. This was the first time Germany had experienced any kind of democracy, and it was quite advanced. All men and women over the age of 20 had the right to vote on equal terms, and everybody had a right to take part in the governing. This constitution was ambitious, however, it did have some flaws. The two main flaws that you need to know about are written here: proportional representation and Article 48. Proportional representation meant that all votes were counted. Whilst this was fair, it was equal, everybody had a say in the government. This meant that the government was always a coalition government, that all political parties were represented. This meant it was very, very hard to make decisions or any laws. Article 48 was a clause written into the government that the president could rule without the Reichstag. They could dismiss the parliament in times of emergency or crisis, and they could rule by themselves. The president could implement any measure to restore order and to keep people safe. So this meant decisions could be made quickly, without the need to go through the Reichstag, the government, the process. However, it could be manipulated by somebody who wished to become a dictator or seize too much power. So after writing a constitution, the other task that the Weimar government had to get to grips with straight away was the peace treaty at the end of World War One. So although they had signed the armistice in November 1918, the Treaty of Versailles was not signed until the 28th of June 1919. The aim of the peace treaty was to bring peace to Europe to avoid another war. and it was signed at Versailles Palace. See here, members of the leading countries attending the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. So the Treaty of Versailles had 4 key areas: land, army, money, blame. The easiest way to remember this is to think of a lamb. Germany lost 13% of their land, 48% of their iron production, and 6 million citizens. This meant it became very, very difficult for them to import and export and produce enough goods to keep their economy afloat, and that becomes a problem much later on. Their army was reduced to only 100,000 volunteers, and they were forced to pay reparations to the Allies. So that's land, army and money. So although reparations were set in the Treaty of Versailles, the amount they had to pay wasn't agreed until later on, until 1921. All of this was justified by probably the most hated clause in the Treaty of Versailles. This was Article 231, the war guilt clause, the blame clause. Germany were forced to accept blame for starting the war, and this kind of gave justification to all of the other things here that Germany were being made to agree to. Reaction to the Treaty of Versailles in Germany was very strong. The German people hated the Treaty of Versailles. They felt angry, they felt humiliated. It was a dictated peace forced upon the new government. Here you can see this is Germany being stranglehold by the countries of the treaty, being forced to swallow the peace terms. You've got to swallow it whether you like it or not. If the German government refused to accept the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, it meant that they were going to be invaded, and they couldn't afford or continue to fight another war. The government faced a lot of criticism for signing this Treaty of Versailles from the people of Germany. The idea that the government had stabbed them in the back continued to grow, and they continued to be called by their name, the November Criminals. The Treaty of Versailles underpins a lot of the problems that the Weimar government faced in its early years from 1919 to 1923 and even further onwards.